I love A Christmas Carol. I love Hallmark. Put the two together and I am in a happy place. A Nashville Christmas Carol was released in 2020. It's directed by Don Wilkinson, written by Eric Brooks, and this stars Jessy Schram as Vivienne. And it's kind of the traditional story of A Christmas Carol. There are some changes compared to Dickens's story, and to be honest, I felt a little bit cheated, a little bit let down. Not enough for me to not like the film. I still really enjoyed it. I still definitely recommend it, but I feel like it was a bad decision, and I feel like maybe it was a decision less made with creative license and more because they were running out of time and or budget. And it doesn't really affect the overall enjoyment of the film, but as a big fan of A Christmas Carol, I've watched many adaptations. This is the only one I've seen where this decision was made, and I don't like it. But I'll explain that with a spoiler warning towards the end, just in case you don't want too much information just now, because as I said, I do recommend it. This was released in 2020. It's directed by Don Wilkinson, written by Eric Brooks, and it stars Jessy Schram as Vivienne. And Vivienne is a TV producer. She is a workaholic. She is quite strict and obviously represents our stereotypical Scrooge character who is maybe lost along their own path, and unless they make some changes soon, things are going to get pretty bad for them. And she's visited by initially the spirit of her mentor and then various spirits. And I will talk more about the spirits with a spoiler warning because it does link back to what I was saying about something that I didn't agree with. But in general, I like the way the spirits were presented. There's no special effects surrounding them. They're just there. They look like human characters. And I think that's always the right decision with live action films, unless it's a film that's already glossed with CGI and special effects. But for this kind of film, I think it always works better to just have them as looking like normal humans, and that's exactly what we get here. And they take Vivienne through various Christmases, and we get to have a look at her childhood, which I thought was particularly interesting, and her relationship with her sister, and how that had to change, and how she had to grow up quite quickly as a young child, and that I thought was really quite emotional and a really solid backstory for the character. I think that worked really well. That was a really good decision. Not only is it there to show her that as a boss, as a TV producer, she's not very nice, but also she might be making some wrong decisions in matters of romance. And there we have our romantic aspect. And I don't want to say too much about that. The romantic aspect focuses on Gavin, played by Wes Brown, and the on-screen chemistry between them is really good, but we don't see that much of them together in the present, because obviously a lot of the film involves Vivienne being taken around different Christmases, so we don't actually get to see that much of them together in the present day, and I would have liked a little bit more of that so we can see what they're like and what the dynamic is like between them in the present. But again, it's not enough for me to not like the film. It's just a point of criticism. I didn't feel like I could properly connect with them in the present because I didn't really know what their dynamic was like that much in the present day. But we did get to see a lot of them in the past, which was obviously very beneficial. And it's also very festive. I say that because not every Christmas film is festive enough for my liking, but this is full of Christmas. Christmas songs, Christmas decorations, the costumes are gorgeous. Really thoroughly enjoyed that aspect. It's definitely a good film to get you in the Christmas spirit, ironically, if that is the kind of film that you're looking for. So it does seem to tick pretty much every box. And I think Jessy Schram gave a great performance. Vivienne was very unlikable to begin with, which is usually the case with films based on A Christmas Carol. We need our Scrooge character to be not very pleasant. And this is exactly what we get. But it didn't take long for me to start to warm to her, which I think is really important. Because if it takes too long, and, it takes maybe 2/3 of the film or more for them to begin to become likable, it's hard to get behind them and want the best for them. But actually, quite quickly, my opinion on her started to change, which is something that I really enjoyed as well. So, everything about it, almost, seems to work really well. if you're looking for a Christmas film that you haven't seen, and particularly if you like A Christmas Carol, I'd say it's worth checking out. But also, if you like A Christmas Carol, something might irritate you. But that aside, I do recommend it. I did enjoy it. Definitely one that I was happy to watch, and I don't think I'd watch it again. But watching it once was a really nice experience, and it's definitely worth checking out if it sounds like your kind of film. So, spoilers from now. I'm not going to spoil ultimately what happens at the end of the film, but I am going to spoil something that breaks the mold of the classic A Christmas Carol, and I don't like it. And I don't think it works very well. I kind of get what they were going for with this message, but I still feel like it was more of a budget or time issue rather than a creative decision. I could be wrong. Maybe that's just me. I'd love to know what you think of it. But spoilers from now. So the big thing that's very different is that we haven't got a spirit of Christmas future. And the reason is given in the film that your future is what you make it, there's no spirit to show you it, etc. Yes, it's a nice message, your future is what you make it. But as I said, this is the only version of A Christmas Carol I've seen, or, adaptation or interpretation, where they've just decided to remove one of the spirits. And I absolutely believe it was a budget issue or a timing issue, whatever. I don't think anybody would ever consciously make that decision to mess with the formula quite so much. And it did irritate me. But on the bright side, it did mean I didn't have to complain about the pacing, because we spend quite a lot of time with the spirit of Christmas past, which is quite typical of A Christmas Carol adaptations. And I was thinking that there's not much time left. And then the spirit of Christmas present came along, and I thought, okay, well, we really haven't got that much time left in the film. I can't remember when they appeared, but I remember, acknowledging that they'd have to do both of these final two spirits really quickly to get them both in with enough screen time. But of course, it turns out we weren't getting a third spirit, so the pacing actually ended up being okay in that regard. But I still feel like we needed the spirit of Christmas future. It just doesn't make any sense to basically stick to the formula of having Jacob Marley as the mentor, and then the spirit of Christmas present and the spirit of Christmas past, and then let's just axe the third spirit. Let's just not include them. Why? You could still deliver that message about your future being what you make it. That's basically what the spirit of Christmas future's message is. This is the future I'm going to show you, but you can choose to change it. That's the whole message. That's basically the whole message of the entire film. That and be kind to others. So yeah, I didn't love that, and I was a little bit irritated, but at the same time, it didn't affect my overall enjoyment. I still came away from the film feeling pleased with it, feeling like I'd enjoyed it, and absolutely feeling like I'm happy to recommend it. So if you haven't seen it, and it sounds like your kind of film, A Nashville Christmas Carol, although not perfect, is worth checking out.